Welcome back to our virtual classroom. I hope you are all well. Today I'm going to give you a quick talk on the topic of the organization of life. Right? So this is the breakdown of the different levels at which our living bodies are organized into. So if we turn our attention to the whiteboard, right, under the title Organization of Life, we'll see a list of 5 things. And so these will be our 5 levels of organization. The smallest level of life is the cell, and the largest level of life is the organism, which I'll be referring to mostly as the body, right? Because each individual one of us has a body that's made up of the different levels. So it goes cells, tissues, organs, organ systems, body, okay? And they build upon one another. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to explain each level, and yeah, be right back. So cells, as the basic unit of life by definition, are the smallest thing that are actually alive. So if we broke our body down into small pieces, the smallest piece of us that is still in and of itself alive is a cell. Now we're made up of a bunch of different types of cells because we are multicellular organisms, right? And they each have their own characteristics. Right? Like my heart cells are different than my kidney cells, are different than my brain cells, are different than my tongue cells. Right? And what determines each individual cell's properties are its composition of organelles. Right? So the different organelles that are within the cell. Okay. So different cells have different amounts of different organelles. Some example organelles are mitochondria, lysosomes, chloroplast, nucleus, endoplasmic reticulum. So depending upon what that cell's job is, the makeup of that cell's organelle composition will be different. For example, our muscle cells have a lot of mitochondria because they use a lot of energy. So that determines our cell's functions. The other thing that determines the cell's function is the thing that determines everything's function, and that's its shape. Right, so not all of our cells are shaped the same way. Right, our neurons have a big cell body with a long axon on it. Our muscle cells are a little bit more stretched out. Right, skin cells are really tightly packed together and really tightly junctured. So different cells have different shapes because they're doing different things. Okay? And so in this model that I have triangle cells and I have square cells. My triangle cells are going to do triangle things because they're shaped like a triangle, so they do triangle things. The square cells are going to do square things because they're square shaped. So that's what we're working with. Triangle cells, square cells. Cells. Okay, so the next level up from cells are tissues. If I have a bunch of cells that are the same kind of cell and they're working together, that is a tissue. So we have muscle tissue or heart tissue or kidney tissue, liver tissue. Right? And so whenever we have a collection of the same type of cells working together to do that cell thing, it's a tissue. The properties of any given tissue are determined by what kind of cells it's made up of. So sticking to the model that I started with earlier, right? I now have a triangle tissue because it's made up of triangle cells. And because triangle cells do triangle things, the triangle tissue is going to do triangle things. So these tissues are just collections of a group of similar cells working together to achieve a similar goal. Moving forward, if I put together a bunch of similar tissues to achieve a slightly larger but similar goal, I'm talking about an organ. Right? And so the organs in our bodies are things like hearts and kidneys and livers and brains. Right? The individual pieces that have their own responsibility. Lungs are an organ. Okay? And our organs are made up of tissue types that are similar to one another. And so continuing with our model of triangles versus squares, I now have a triangle organ. It's made up of 2 different types of triangles. I have red triangles and I have blue triangles. Ultimately, they're doing triangle-y things, right? And so this organ overall is still going to do triangle things because it's made up of triangle tissues, and triangle tissues are made up of triangle cells. And so because the cells can do triangle things, the organ can do triangle things. Organs. Making quick work of this, okay? We're now on level 4, we're at organ systems. Okay? So organ systems take a slight departure from this trend that we've seen, right? Up until now, we've just been building up. So triangle cells led to triangle tissue, led to triangle organs. And they all did the same kind of thing. They're all working on triangle stuff. When we get to organ systems, we see a little divergence from this. Right? Organ systems are when 2 or more organs work together to achieve a larger type of goal. Right? And so in my silly model, I have my triangle organ, and it's still doing triangle things, but now I also have a square organ involved over here doing square organ things. And they're going to work together. And the outcome is not like square triangle together function. It's not a square on top of a triangle, right? It would now be some combination of those 2 traits together. And so a good example of this in our bodies are the circulatory system and the respiratory system working together to get oxygen throughout our body and to get carbon dioxide out of our body, right? And so the respiratory system is doing the breathing stuff, the gas exchange, and the circulatory system is doing the blood moving stuff. And they work together even though they have separate functions to achieve that one common goal of moving gases throughout our body. Okay. So these are organ systems. 2 or more organs working together to achieve a larger goal. And so we've reached the penultimate level of individual organization. Right? We put together all of our organ systems, every one of them, and they form the entirety of our body. Right? They form us as individual organisms. You put together all the organ systems and you get this emergent property of individual life. Right? I am the composition of all of my organs working together. That's what makes me me. Right? And so you take my liver away, I'm going to die, and then I won't be me anymore. Right? You take my brain away, I'm going to die, and I won't be me anymore. Even though you remove one little component, the whole thing falls apart. Because this idea of emergent property is basically the sum of a piece's parts is greater than its individual pieces put together. Right? So the whole is greater than just the sum of the parts. Okay? I'm not just my organs working together because I'm an individual. I'm an organism. Right? And so you put together all these organ systems, you get the body, you get a living thing, you get an organism, an individual. And that's it. That's how our stuff is organized as far as living levels go. Right? You can step back beyond cells and start looking at the molecules and the elements that the cells are composed of, which we will do very, 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 very soon. But right now we're going to focus on the living stuff. Okay? So that's it. That's the video for today. Awesome sauces. I hope you have a fantastic day. Thanks for coming. See you all next time. Bye.